Can you get relegated even if you have a sugar daddy owner? Hello and welcome to the What If League. Today we're doing part 2 of the experiment. What would happen if Newcastle had a sugar daddy foreground owner? If you haven't seen part 1 of this experiment, please make sure to check out the links below in the description where you will find a direct link to part 1 of this experiment, which took action from 22nd of January 2018 until the 2nd of June 2021. Now, in part 2, we're going to review the next 3 years of this idea, of this concept, where Newcastle actually are being owned by a very, very rich owner, a very rich businessman who is pumping money into the club with the idea to bring them more success. Last time we left with part one was in the end of season 21, where Newcastle finished 8th. So today I want to continue from that point and let's see what happened next season. In the very next season for Newcastle, that's very, very unfortunate. They were relegated. They finished bottom of the league, 22 points only, which means that even though they had a sugar daddy owner, that did not stop them from getting relegated. And you can see that they were 8 points behind Crystal Palace, who finished 17th, and this was the last position that was securing place of the team in the Premier League. Let's see season after that, and let's go down one division. We can see that Newcastle did not manage to qualify from the first time asking. The Bolton were champions of the championship that year. Hull City were runners-up, and playoff winners were Stoke. I'm not sure where Newcastle actually qualified. We do not have the championship loaded here, but we can see that in the next season, 23-24, Newcastle were champions of the championship and managed to qualify for the Premiership, so they will be back in the next year. Now, let's have a quick look at the team and understand what happened. So let's see, in terms of head coaches, we see that so who was sacked? Slaven Bilic was sacked here. He was sacked at the 10th of December 2021, which is midway through the season. And that's very interesting. He was sacked at that point. Mikel Antia was the interim coach, and then Philippe Cocu took charge. He resigned from his role on the 6th of January 2023. Afterwards, they do not have at the moment a manager according to the game. I guess this is probably because they are in the championship. Now let's see the tactic screen of this current Newcastle team. Moussa Dembele is the main striker. We have Lorenzo Gonzalez, who is on loan here. Then we have Tristan Nidam, Facundo Keon, Samuel Bastien, and Jordan Lutomba in the midfield. The four players in defense are Petar Stojanovic, Aaron Duncan, Kevin Wimmer, and Sibusiso Lumkwane, another player on loan. They are playing just ahead of Dave Denton, who is the goalkeeper of the team. Samuel Bastien from Belgium is the key player of that team. Let's have a quick look. He's the midfielder. He's a very accomplished midfielder, can play all across the midfield positions, and he is quite cheap, 1.9 million. He has been brought from 19 million pounds from the Italian Chievo in season 2019-2020. So he has been his value has dropped down tenfold. This is very significant change in his valuation. Let's have a look at the transfer history as well to see what did Newcastle do in these past 3 seasons. So the last time that we left out, they had a very big transfer window where they bought Moussa Dembele from Olympique Marseille, Ryan Sessegnon from Aston Villa, along some other players. Most expensive transfer that year was Dembele, then Sessegnon, and third place was Kevin Wimmer from Southampton, whose transfer amount eventually reached 32 million pounds. Now let's see what happened in the very next season. They spent even more, 142 million pounds, and they spent them on, you see, Leon Bailey from Leverkusen, Tony Saunders from Blackburn. Kasper Dolberg was purchased from Bayern Munich for astonishing amount, 71 million pounds. This is an incredible transfer for Newcastle, and we see that later on they sold him to Dortmund for 38.5, which is almost 50% loss. And we can see that Kasper Dolberg was purchased by Bayern Munich from Ajax for 46.5 million. So they made a very healthy profit. Afterwards, Newcastle made a very big loss on this transfer. Who else do we have here? Alexander Zinchenko. He's the left fullback from Manchester City, has joined the team on a free. Vinicius Junior, who actually signed for Real Madrid in reality, and here he left Real Madrid to join Newcastle. Afterward, they sold him to Barcelona for 33 million, so they made a very healthy profit from this player. He's a left winger. Unfortunately for them, he left now for Barcelona. Serge Gnabry was purchased from Bournemouth for 37 million, so this is another very big transfer. He is now playing for Manchester United, so they did not manage to keep him as well, which is not really surprising considering that they are in the championship for 2 years in a row. Mesut Özil is now he has retired since his playing time in Newcastle, but he joined them in year 2021 from Manchester United. So he left Arsenal to join Manchester United in season 2017-18 for 17 million point 25 pounds, and then he played 3.5 seasons at Old Trafford before he joined the Magpies. Who else is here? Facundo Quignon, Asane Gnukuri from Inter. I'm not familiar with those names. Let's see now in the outgoing screen who has left the team that season. Paul Dummett joined West Ham for 12.25 million. Sam Larsson was sold to FC Copenhagen. Mitchell joined Fenerbahce. Marco Brighton was sold to Bristol City. Emre Mor joined Stuttgart. So Emre Mor, who is a very big talent, did not really develop very well. You can see that Newcastle bought him for 5 million and a quarter, and then sold him for 7 million to Stuttgart. They made some profit, but I imagine that they would have preferred if he developed into a better player. Let's see, who else do we see? David Luiz has left Newcastle in year 21-22, in season 21-22 for Werder Bremen for almost a bit more than £500,000. He has retired since then. Now he's a coach, but unfortunately for him, he hasn't found employment yet. Steve Mounier has left for Sassuolo, as well as Martin Hinteregger. Victor Fernandez has joined Leganes for a very small sum, a bit more than £250,000. Now let's see in the next season. In the next season, Newcastle did not spend any money. I imagine that they had a lot of trouble with their wage budget after they bought such established stars, and they found themselves in the championship. You can see that they only managed to loan 3 players from Manchester City, Arsenal, and Manchester United, respectively. This is very interesting. Let's have a look at these players. Marlon, who has since joined CSK Moscow. He's a central defender, also capable to play as a defensive midfielder. I think that he's a very, very good player, especially for a championship team. He was probably very successful at Newcastle. Let's have a look. Actually, no, he wasn't, unfortunately. 6.92 average rating, which is not really that impressive. But he didn't impress at Manchester City as well. You can see that he had an even lower average rating, which makes sense because they were competing in the Premier League, which is a much more competitive league and requires a lot more from players. Olakunle Ogude, this is an English regen from Arsenal. He is still at the team. And apparently he actually played some games for Arsenal in the Premier League. He's very good mentally, very good physically. He has still some room for improvement in the technical areas, but let's see, for a right defender, his crossing is quite poor, to be honest. Also, his dribbling could be much better. First touch is not that good. Other than that, marking and tackling are acceptable for his age, I would say. Although 21 is not really that young in the game. I know that a lot of Football Manager players prefer to use younger players, and 21 for them is really not a young player that would have a lot of time to develop. We can see that this player actually went on 2 loans. Both of them were not really a big success. Let's see the third one, Stan Tesselaar from Manchester United, 21-year-old Dutch goalkeeper. He's currently evaluated for £12.5 million, and he has at least made his debut in the Premier League for Manchester United. I think this has happened before. You can see in season 21-22 actually he played 1 league game. So a very good goalkeeper. He also performed very well in the championship for the limited time that he was there. I'm guessing that this player is going to develop very well into the future. Looking now in the outgoing section, we see that David Concha joined Southampton, Ruben Neves joined Barcelona, Ryan Sessegnon was sold to Leeds United. I'm guessing Leeds are in the Premiership. Let's have a quick look. No, they're now in the Championship, but they probably were in the Premier League at that time. Mikel Merino was sold to Crystal Palace. That's very unfortunate. This is a player that I admire a lot, and I see that he has developed very well in the game. Unfortunately for Newcastle, they lost him to Crystal Palace. Dodi Lukebakio was sold to FC Copenhagen. Leon Bailey joined Bayern Munich for a fee that would eventually reach £42 million, and John Joe Shelby left for Aston Villa. In the next season, Newcastle spent moderately 9.5 million for incoming transfers, while they sold players for a total of 92 million pounds. Let's start with the sold players first. Alexander Zinchenko was sold to Bolton. Kasper Dolberg joined Dortmund for 38.5, reaching 53 million pounds in the future. Steph Garrison was sent on loan. That's not really important. Serge Gnabry joined Manchester United for 25 million pounds. This is very interesting turn of events. We already saw that. Let's see how did Serge Gnabry perform at Newcastle and in Manchester United. At Newcastle, he was almost impressive, but not really. He did not reach average rating of 7. And in Manchester United, for the 4 games that he have played so far, he actually managed to be a bit better than what he was at Newcastle in the first part of the season. And then we are now reaching Vinicius Junior, who has been sold for 41 million pounds to Barcelona, and he's performing well so far. 8 games, 1 assist. He did not manage to score a goal yet, while at Newcastle he scored 23 goals in total and 24 assists, which is a very good performance from him. In the Premier League, he did not really manage to shine a lot, but I imagine that he was still young, so he was 20 at the time, and looking at his stats, he has what it takes to develop into a very successful player. So who did Newcastle buy? Lorenzo Gonzalez came on loan. Let's check out Lorenzo Gonzalez, 24-year-old Swiss striker. He's also capable to play in the three positions behind the striker. He played in 32 league games, scoring 10 goals, managing to make 2 assists and picking up 3 Player of the Match awards in the meantime, with an average rating. Where is his average rating? Let's switch here. Average rating of 7.00. This player is probably never going to play for Manchester United. For Manchester City. Apologies. We can see that he has been sent on loan a lot of times in the last few seasons, and I don't imagine that they would really use his services. Petar Stojanovic has been brought from Everton. This is a Slovenian right fullback. He's also capable to play in midfield. A solid player, not really the best of fullbacks, but he's a solid player that can bring stability into your team, and this is exactly what he did for Newcastle, averaging 7.11 in his 16 games for the team, managing to score 1 goal, also managing to attribute with 1 assist, picking up 1 Player of the Match award along the way. Louis Freeman joined from Southampton on loan. This is a very young regen striker from Southampton. As you can see, he's not that impressive, but he scored 2 goals, which I guess helped Newcastle win the title and achieve promotion to the Premier League. Jordan Lotomba from Everton, a 25-year-old Swiss player. He's a right winger, a right midfielder, also capable to play on the left wing as well. We can see that he's nothing too special in terms of stats. Let's see his performance, 6.86, nothing too special as well. Craig Jones joined from Arsenal on loan, 21-year-old regen. He is playing in the number 10 position as an attacking midfielder. Not bad at all. We can see decision 16, first touch 16. Work rate is high. His vision is average, but for a young player, it's okay. So I think he's a good number 10. Let's see his. So where is passing? Passing is 12. Not bad. Positioning is a bit low, which is probably hindering him from really dominating games. But this is what Newcastle managed to bring on loan. Jacob Murphy was purchased from Aston Villa for 1.2 million. This is a 29-year-old right winger, also capable to play on the left wing. He did not play a lot of games, only 9 games, 7 of which as a substitute, but he managed to score 1 goal. Then there are 3 other loans. Sibusiso Lungfame, who we already saw in the starting squad. He is the left defender, the left fullback, and he's a 21-year-old regen from South Africa, currently playing on loan from Watford. He has, I would say, average stats. His mental and physical attributes are nice, but his technical, not so much. Mark May came from Tottenham on loan. He's a striker, 21-year-old regen. Good finishing, good determination, stamina, natural fitness as well. But he's not really that impressive. Played 4 games as a substitute, managed to score 3 goals. And in the end, Gilles Lebrun, who is regen from Manchester United. He's 21 years old from France and he's capable to play as a center back as well as defensive midfielder. And he was actually a starter for Newcastle, 15 games, 2 assists, picking up, picking up an average rating of 6.8, which is not that good. But he started a lot of games, so I imagine that the Newcastle manager, who at the moment is the AI, has found reasons to use him. Now let's have a look at the domestic cups in England and who won those in the last few years. So Chelsea, Manchester United and Tottenham won the FA Cup. Now let's also have a quick look at the League Cup and then we'll switch to see how did Newcastle perform in those seasons. So the League Cup was won by West Brom in season 21-22, then Manchester United and Manchester City in the last 2 years. Newcastle unfortunately did not manage to win anything in that period. And now they find themselves winning the championship, so next year would be interesting for them. Now let's have a quick look at the schedule and let's go back to the first season of part 2, which is season 21-22. So they start the League Cup by defeating Shrewsbury, then they also beat Nottingham Forest before they were defeated by Burnley in the 4th round. Then in the Premier League, you can see that they were in terrible, terrible form. We can see a lot of losses here, and those are not only top teams. We can see Bournemouth at home, Sheffield Wednesday away, West Ham at home, Brighton at home, West Brom away. So this is really terrible results for the Toon Army, and no wonder that they found themselves in the relegation zone and eventually got relegated. In the FA Cup, however, they were successful in the 3rd round by defeating Bournemouth. Then they managed to get to a 4th round replay where they defeated Leeds in the first game away at Elland Road. They drew 1-1. Then in the 5th round, they were eliminated by Everton after managing to secure a 2-2 draw at home, but they were defeated heavily 1-4 in the replay. Then in the next season, there is nothing for us to tell us how did they perform in the championship, but we can see that in the League Cup they were eliminated by Bolton in the 2nd round, and then in the FA Cup 3rd round they lost catastrophically to Tottenham 4-0 at Wembley, I think, or they are at their new stadium at this moment. I'm not sure. Let's check. So facilities, no, they're playing at Wembley. So yes, that game was probably played at Wembley as well. And in the very last season here, we can see that in the League Cup, they defeated Tranmere and Rotherham before being eliminated by Bolton on after extra time in the League Cup 3rd round. Then in the FA Cup, they started with 2 wins against Crewe, Alexander and Sheffield Wednesday, but afterwards they were beaten by Manchester United. Actually, they made a prestigious draw 1-1 at home, but afterwards when they were visiting Old Trafford, they lost 0-3. Lastly, let's turn our attention to the European competitions, and first in line is the Europa League. In the last season of Part 1, Chelsea were champions after defeating Inter in the final on penalties. In the next season, Tottenham won the All-English final against Liverpool 1-0. Tottenham qualified for that game after defeating Roma 7-1 on aggregate in the semi-final. They also beat Leverkusen 7-0 on aggregate in the quarters and Napoli 5-2. So very impressive from Tottenham in that season. Next year, Manchester United won the Europa League after beating Lazio 1-0 in the final. They also defeated Manchester City in the semis, Porto in the quarters, and the Italian Inter Milan in the second knockout round. In the final season, which is year 2024, Lazio were champions of Europe after beating Sevilla 3-1. They also defeated Liverpool in the semi-finals, Valencia in the quarters, and the German Hoffenheim in the second knockout round. Moving one level up to the Champions League, the last time we left out, Atletico Madrid were champions of Europe after defeating their compatriots Barcelona on penalties 1-1. Then in the next year, Bayern Munich were champions of the Champions League after beating Manchester City in that final. Bayern Munich qualified for that game after eliminating Monaco on away goals in the semis. You can see on aggregate that battle was 4-4. In the quarterfinals, Bayern Munich defeated Paris Saint-Germain, and then before that, another French team, Lyon. So they defeated 3 French teams in a row before they managed to eliminate Manchester City in the final. Season after that, Barcelona were champions of Europe. They managed to defeat Bayern Munich, who did not defend their title. Barcelona also beat Tottenham in the semi-final, Atletico Madrid in the quarters, and Chelsea in the first knockout round. And in the very last year, Manchester United were crowned champions of Europe after a home final. You can see that the final venue is Old Trafford, so Manchester United managed to win the highest accolade in European club competitions in front of their own crowd on their own stadium. So this is probably a very, very happy event for them. They managed to beat Juventus 3-1 after extra time. They qualified for that final after defeating Real Madrid in the semis, Sporting Lisbon in the quarterfinals, and Atletico Madrid in the first knockout round. Alright, that's it for this video, guys. If you haven't seen part 1 of this experiment, check out my channel or the links in the description below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already to receive notifications for when I upload new videos. In the meantime, you can also check out my social media. I will leave links for those below in the description as well. Let me know what you think about this experiment and what would you like to see next. I would love to hear from you in the comments. I am going to make part 3 where we're going to focus 3 more years into the future and see how this experiment evolves. I think that the Sugar Daddy owners should help Newcastle to re-establish themselves in the Premier League, but we'll see how this develops into the future. Thank you everybody for watching. Goodbye.